Welcome one and all to the Ancient Journey. If you like the video, please give us a like and a share, and if you're into our content, please subscribe. It helps grow the channel, and it keeps us producing these videos. Today's journey, the reappearances of Dr. Bates. My dear wife, I am called out of town to some major operations. I go with Dr. Forche, an old student, to do a mastoid, some cataracts, and other operations. He promises me a bonanza. Too bad to miss the horse shows, but I am glad to get so much money for us all. I am in such a flurry. Do not worry. I will write details later. Yours lovingly, Willie. It is 1902. The note had arrived, addressed to Ada, from her husband, Dr. William Horatio Bates. Ada stared quietly at the letter. She didn't quite understand it. She was out of town visiting her mother, and this letter had arrived for her by courier. What was her husband's hurry? And Ada knew that the doctor, a successful ophthalmologist in New York City, was swimming in money and at the height of his career. So why the excitement in the letter over money? And where was he headed? He never said in the letter. Ada returned home and waited for the doctor to return, and after several days she could not determine where he had gone. She began looking for him by contacting friends and family, and then ended up asking for help from the local Masons group, where William was a prominent member. The Masons circulated a sort of missing persons poster around the world, and soon a letter returned from Britain. There was a man there who looked like Dr. Bates, who was working as an assistant at London's Charing Cross Hospital. Even stranger, the man was working there after first being admitted as a patient. Soon friends of William and Ada were able to verify that this indeed was William, even though his appearance was quite shocking. Thin and sickly looking, Bates had clearly gone through some sort of an extended period of malnutrition. Bates later said he recalled starving at some points during his journey, despite being so wealthy back in the States that he could have had anything he wanted to in London. Ada boarded the very next ship he could find to head to England, ready for her reunion with her husband. But William stared at her with indifference. "I don't know why you bother, madam," he told her. "We are strangers." After much persuasion, and proving to him that they were indeed married, William and Ada took up residence at the Savoy Hotel to rest, and attempt to have him regain his memory. William started to remember bits and pieces, recalling leaving New York City to perform an operation on someone who had a brain abscess. Ada was thrilled as her husband took baby steps towards recovery, but after just 2 days of entering the Savoy, Dr. Bates walked out of the hotel. Ada would never see him again. She searched for him until 1907, reportedly dying with a picture of him in her arms. William remains missing until 1910, and he resurfaces in, of all places, Grand Forks, North Dakota. Bates was handsome and in his 40s, with an impressive resume and background. He had spent years as a physician at hospitals in New York. He was often consulted for medical opinions from fellow doctors. In 1910, one of these fellow doctors was passing through Grand Forks and recognized Bates. Dr. J.E. Kelly was amazed to find his colleague and friend running a small ophthalmologist's office there in Grand Forks. Even more amazing was the fact that Bates claimed no recollection of his past life in New York City. Kelly persuades Bates to return to New York, and the two open an office on West 83rd Street. Bates is 51 by this point, and after Dr. Kelly writes to the New York Herald of his return, some questions begin to be asked. Bates tells reporters he has no memory of his past life, and they are only able to determine that he has spent years wandering Europe and then the Great Plains working as a physician. It was as if a large section of his life had never happened, and he could not remember it. Bates returned to the swing of things in New York, working at Harlem Hospital and getting remarried, But eventually Bates' life took another odd turn. This well-educated eye doctor was suddenly proposing medical treatments that were seen as unusual, to say the least. In 1917, Bates publishes the Bates system of eye exercises in the magazine Physical Culture. The magazine is published by a man named Bernard McFadden, a notorious quack and hype man. McFadden did not trust or believe in doctors, and Physical Culture promoted the ideas of holistic healing. When in need of medical treatment, McFadden turned to his own nonsense treatments instead of doctors, and it eventually cost him his life. 2 of McFadden's own daughters died from a lack of medical care, causing him to remark of one, "It's better she's gone. She only would have disgraced me." However, the article of Bates was a hit, and perhaps trying to distance himself from the carnival barker-like reputation of McFadden, Bates publishes the book Cure of Imperfect Eyesight by Treatment Without Glasses. The book is panned by the medical community as absolute nonsense. The methods in the book completely contradict Bates' medical training. It offers the idea that eye issues are a result only of eye strain or nervous tension and could be fixed with eye exercises and relaxation or exposure to direct sunlight. Despite the reaction from the medical community, Bates draws many followers. Across the world, people are staring into the sun, swinging their gaze from place to place and covering their eyes up, all in an attempt to repair their vision. One of Bates' most famous followers was Aldous Huxley. Huxley, author of The Brave New World, had vision problems for most of his life. Huxley followed Bates' methods and even wrote a book of it in 1942 called The Art of Seeing. Oddly enough, despite being a proponent of Bates' methods, it is widely believed that Huxley remained nearly blind throughout his entire life. Huxley could hardly see at all, yet seemed to try to keep up the idea that the exercises worked by memorizing speeches and then pretending to read them from a podium. In 1929, Bates gained another fan, the Federal Trade Commission. They issued a complaint against him for making false claims. This never slowed down the momentum of the book, however. For some people, the book worked. So, what explains this doctor who had it all, disappearing and then reappearing? To this day, no one knows. His obituary lists that he suffered from a form of aphasia, which isn't really accurate, since aphasia deals with the lack of ability to understand or communicate speech. Many felt it was just simple amnesia, but that doesn't fit the bill either. Generally, people with amnesia still know who they are, but have trouble learning new information or forming any new memories. They're sort of stuck in one place. Dr. Bates always stayed Dr. Bates, and continued to grow businesses throughout his life. There are some very rare conditions where persons lose memory of themselves and wander aimlessly, but this condition is extremely rare and are generally a result of some trauma in life. And again, if he had this condition, why did it never resurface? So did Bates just make up the whole thing? Was he just tired of his life in New York, or perhaps his wife? And if so, what explains his return there later in life? And what caused his need to suddenly publish this strange article and then a book about the Bates method? Bates died in 1931, and whatever his secret was went with him. The Bates methods are still around today, and there are many believers that the doctor was onto something. But the name and cause of Bates' disappearances and reappearances remains unknown. Thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing the journey.